Hello, welcome. We'll get started here in just a moment. If you're here, say hi. Say hi in the chat. Let me know. Okay. Sharing my screen. Maybe. There we go. Okay. So this is Developer Office Hour. If you have not been here before, this is where I answer questions that come up about Omniverse Kit, developer questions, and may come from the forum, from Discord, from passing somebody in the hallway. Probably not, but everything that I answer here and code that I show is available in this repository. Hello, EVG. And so you can go in here, and for every day there's a folder with the code that I've shown, and then you can go to this Omniverse FAQ where I keep a running list of timestamped links to the videos so that you can refer back to them. So that's all available to you. And so I have one or two questions prepared for today, and then we'll open it up to open forum where you can just feel free to just drop questions in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them live and as we go along. And anything that I can't answer, we can try to look for that answer offline or prepare it for another week. So today we are talking about events. And the first question is, how do I listen for or subscribe to an event in Omniverse Kit? So I haven't done a video of this before. The reason for that is that we have snippets for this that I thought were fairly good, but the question comes up often enough that I think it'd be good to have a video to refer to as well. So if you go to NVIDIA docs, the Omniverse docs, you go to read our developer guide, and there are code samples, and there's a section specifically for events. And the most common one may be the update event, but you can also create custom events and subscribe to your own, push those events, and then listen for your own custom events. And then we have many events developed by NVIDIA developers for different situations within a Kit app that you may want to listen for and react to. So for this, we're just going to talk about the basics of what it means to subscribe and how that mechanism works. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that code, and I'm going to open this up, and we will put this in here. I'm going to rename this file to sub event for subscribe. And for this event you can get the update event stream from OmniKit app, get app. Once you have an event stream, this is an iEvent stream interface. You can look that up in the Kit docs. Let's pull that up. Well, what's often faster is just, can I do carb events, iEvent stream, maybe? It's not going to find it, but it is under carb. All right, I will look it up. Back to the developer guide. If we go to, I believe, we'll find it in the manual. And if we look at the Python API, OmniKit app, it's going to get us the iApp, event streams. So carb events, and here are those same examples. Anyways, we'll look at it this way. I'm not sure if that's the exact object, but when we get the event stream, we can print that out. We'll comment these out for now. I need a launch code here. Welcome, Nandu. Okay. Give that a minute. And I need to load my VS Code extension. Great. So here we are. And I need to show, I guess I could just run this from here. And here we can see that we got what functions it has. And so whenever you get one of these event stream objects, they all have this you can subscribe to push, pop, and also by each of those by type. So what that does is, so you have this common interface for subscribing to events from an event. So whenever you see some specific event stream from Omniverse, you can at least expect that that they are going to share this same interface, which is great. So the one that we're going to use here is create subscription to pop. That's going to take a callback, and you can also optionally name the subscription. What that is going to do is it's going to return a subscription object, and you need to hold on to this. The subscription will stay alive as long as this object remains alive. So if you set this variable to none, or if you're in a class function and this variable goes out of scope, it'll get automatically cleaned up, and your subscription will be canceled. So you need to hold on to that. So if you're in a class, you may want to have class variable, right? Store it there, and that way, once you exit the function where maybe you created the subscription, it stays alive. So let's go ahead and run this now. So what we should see is this is going to call my function on every update. So we'll get lots of update prints as soon as I run this. All right, and then we can look over here and we can see, yep. And so it's printing update and then the time between those function calls. So it's running fairly fast. This is going to run forever. But this is a global variable in effect here. It's like I'm writing this in the script editor. So I can still come over here and just run this one line, and that will kill my subscription. No more prints. Okay, so that's the basic idea of subscribing to events and how they work. Every event will have this payload object that it may or may not be used. If we look here at the documentation for events, you can, when you push an event, you can you say what type it is, and then you can optionally add data to the payload. It's just a dictionary. So that's something to look out for. Some events may have payloads that you may want to leverage. Events will also tell you what type they are. So we could look at that. Go ahead and comment this line out and run it again. So event type 0, it is an enum, unfortunately. So it doesn't help a ton, or it's not very descriptive, but let me see what we can do here. That's exactly, there's a question here. Am I running code in script editor through VS Code? It's not going through the script editor. At least I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's not. But it effectively is like using my VS Code as a script editor. So if you haven't used this yet, it is in third-party search VS Code, and it is embedded VS Code. So you install this. You also install an extension, search Omniverse, I think, embedded VS Code for our NVIDIA Omniverse, and that'll do it. So back to this. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to check. So yeah, that is an enum. Not totally useful for the way that I wanted to show it here. Let's just make sure that there isn't anything else here. Payload, sender type, consume. Yeah. So more often than not, the way that you would use that type is, I'll show you in a moment, is is that a lot of these event streams will have an associated enum, and so you can compare the type with the enum to make sure you have the right type. And I'll show that in the next question. But this is a basic idea. Any questions about this one? No? All right. Next up, Nandu had a question earlier. Link where the FAQ list of questions is. This is developer office hours. So yeah, I always just link to the repo, and then from the repo you can get to the Omniverse FAQ. I'll post that link too. All right, and you scroll a little bit down to the Omniverse developer section, and you'll find it there. I wonder if I can I'm not going to mess around with that. I was going to link to a heading, try to link to a heading. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next question, which is, how do I run a function every n seconds during playback? All right, so this one came up last week, and I know I've answered it before on video, but it doesn't look like I've had a prepared answer for this. So I want to try to record this kind of cleaned up here. So I'm going to do new file, and we're going to do trigger every n. I don't know. Not a great name. So we'll take this example that we had before. And I think I'm going to remove, or what I'll do is I'll put a comment here. Remember to clean up. Oh, and I should mention this as well, is you want to make sure that when you need the subscription alive, keep that alive, that sub object alive. But when your extension shuts down or any situation like that, you need to make sure that you're cleaning up your subscriptions. Otherwise, there's a chance that that it may remain alive, and then you've got things firing that you weren't expecting, conflicting with new instances of those subscriptions that get created. So I'm thinking like when you hot reload your code in an extension, that can sometimes happen. So it's often best practice to set your subscription variables to none during the shutdown of your extension. Okay. So we're going to trigger every n. So how do we do that? Well, I want to do every n is going to be 2 seconds. And all I need to do is have another variable for elapsed, and we won't print. Well, we'll change that. And so now I can use that DT variable to have a running total. And then if elapsed is greater than or equal to every n, then we can say something like that. And we'll leave this off for now. And we'll see if I got it right. So we're going to run this. Make sure I don't have anything else running here. Good. And I got an error. Local variable referenced before assignment. And lots of errors because I have that on loop. Elapsed. So I did spell it right. I'll have to. I thought the scope would work there. Cool. So now I have access to that global variable in this function or I'm saying that that's the one that I want to use. And we need to kill this thing. And now we'll try again. And that looks about every 2 seconds, maybe? It feels a little fast. What's the F after print? I will tell you in a moment. But let's change this to 5 just to make it a little more clear. The F right before the string is called an F. It makes it an F string. So you can look that up. What that lets me do is it lets me embed variables within the string, and it will automatically convert those, evaluate those variables or expressions, and include them into the string. So let's make that 5. And probably what's more interesting is printing elapsed. So we should see that count up to 5. Good. We'll run it. Update 5. Update. No, it looks like it's printing. What is it doing? I have an error here. I never reset it because I'm a fool. Let's go ahead and fix that. We'll stop this. And now we need to reset the elapsed time. I thought it was going too fast. Right? And we'll clear, run it. And now I'm sure it fired, and we got that print and then reset. Okay, so that's updating every n, or doing something every n seconds. I wanted to take this one step further. I said that the original question was on playback, right? Because this is great if you just kind of need a timer and you need something to fire kind of in editor mode every n seconds. But what if you want something to happen during playback of your animation, and you want it to happen every n seconds? Well, we need to add in an extra layer here. Okay. So what we need to do is we need another function here, and we're going to say on play, and that's going to take another event. And then on stop. And on play, we're going to subscribe. And again, we'll do a global variable here. When you're doing this in an extension, there are much better ways to do this than using global variables. But for the sake of simplicity in this snippet, we'll do it this way. We'll call this update sub. And then on stop, we're going to say set it to none, right? So when we play, when play is clicked, we start doing, we start this loop, and on the fifth one, it's going to print, but we would potentially do something there. I suppose we can get rid of this to make it a little bit more clear now. And then on stop, we remove the subscription. We don't want it to be counting anymore. So now, how do we know when play and stop are pressed? Does anybody want to take a guess? There's an event for that. So Omni Timeline has an event stream, and it is an I event stream, just like the other update one. So we can subscribe to it in a similar way, and I'll show you this time how to subscribe by type, and then we'll hook up our functions to that. So let's go back to here, and we're going to import Omni Timeline, and we're going to get the interface. This one's a little weird for Python folks, but you need to get the interface, and this is the object that you use to do all your work. I wonder if I can get autocomplete on this. Omni Timeline iTimeline. And I want to get the timeline event stream. And I want to create subscription. I could create subscription to pop by type. And that wants the event type, Omni, and I mentioned that there are enums for this all over the place, and we can get it from timeline event type, and we want play. There's also pause. Ideally, we would also hook this up to pause, but we'll ignore that for now. And then stop. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's only going to fire on play and stop. If I don't give it a type, it's going to fire every time. And then I need to check for all of the event types that this stream cares about. And then I have to, in my functions, check what the type is and then have a bunch of branching code in one function that I don't want to have. So in this case, I want to do by type, then I get these nice clean functions where they just do one thing. So here we're going to have play sub, stop sub, and play sub equals none, stop sub equals none for the cleanup. Okay, and I think that is everything. Oh, I didn't give it the function. So first you give it the event type, then you give it the function. On play, on stop. And now we see if I messed up or not. No errors. We press play. Did I tell it to do? There it is. Every 5 seconds is going to print that out. I took out the constant update stream. And then let it fire one more time. Click stop. And we should not see any more updates. Yeah, those are just viewport updates. Cool. So that's been more than 5 seconds. So that's it. I got it right the first time. Yay. Any questions about that? Give you all a second. It is easy. No, it can be challenging. That's why we're here. But yeah, it definitely works. And once you know the patterns, hopefully it becomes a little bit more intuitive. Cool. So we're done with this one. Let's open it up to open forum questions. There was one question already. So there's a question about how would we apply rigid body to a character, for example, the biped demo, so that the biped would collide and actually walk on the ground. So I don't know if the biped demo, let me switch over to Composer. I think that's on Composer by default. My question is, does the biped demo use rigid body? I'm guessing it's not like a ragdoll collision. It would probably just be like a capsule or a cube or a bounding box collision, just to keep it on the ground, I guess. But we can take a look at that and break it down. In the meantime, if anybody else has any any other questions, please queue them up. So where is this? This is going to be... Can you remind me where those demos are these days? If you... I am almost there. Demo scenes? Is it part of demo scenes? Probably not. Those are the physics ones. I think we're talking about the animation graph ones. Complex showcases. Character controller, I don't know if that one has any sort of rigid body. Well, that's just a camera, I think. Animation graph, browsers, examples. There. Are we talking about any of these? There are lots of samples. I didn't think any of these used collisions. But I don't know how much you know, so I will start down this path, and then you tell me, oh, I know all that, if that's the case. For the most part, I believe if we're talking about just character walking and we want that character to also interact with physics, like let's say, I don't even know what would happen if I did this. We're going to load that one. Still loading. In the meantime, we create a cube. And you can add, right-click on it, add physics, rigid body with collider preset. That's going to give you the rigid body properties and the and the collider. And I don't have ground, so let's add a ground. So we create a ground plane. Bam. So we have our cube with, when we added the rigid body with collider presets, it added this physics section with these rigid body properties. It said rigid body enabled to true. You can tweak all of these to your liking. And then it also added a collider with collision enabled, the approximation for how the collider should be created or calculated, and that's about it. And so we get collision. I also added the ground plane, which is a convenient way to get a collision plane plus a collision mesh for the plane, which also has, thought it should have a collider. Physics plane, and it has a collider. Right. So the collision plane is the one that's being used for the collision, and the mesh is just a visual representation that you can texture and all that. So in essence, I think same thing should work for a character. So that character's walking. I'm pretty sure we don't have any sort of physics simulation on this character. Character body mesh. Skeletal binding. I don't know how these play together, but we will see. So I could take this body mesh, and we're going to move the whole character up. We will add, you can do this from here, or you can do this from here. Add physics rigid body with collider preset. And what's going to happen? The body mesh dropped, but that is fixed. So I don't have a good answer for this one. I could try putting it on the skeleton. That might be interesting. Let's try that one. But I think that's being driven by the animation. So it'd have to be it may depend on where you put it to get the right effect. Yeah. So not sure. I'd have to look into that. But did I show you anything new, or is that all things you already knew? I don't know if we have. If we have a demo for that. We do have animation graph, sort of a character animation, plus we have the nav mesh, which keeps characters in a way, is checking for collisions and keeping characters in the nav mesh. So maybe that might be helpful for what you're trying to do. Yeah, I don't know if I have a good example for that. So I'll have to get back to you on that one. All right, any other questions? Oh, there was a question here. What's the difference between simulation start and stop events and timeline stop and start events? I don't know. I don't know. From my experience, both of them fire at the same, like for every situation that I've encountered, they both fire. So I'm not sure. Presumably, you might be able to run simulation without timeline. But I that's a good question. I don't know. But yeah, I think all the physics simulation examples use simulation start and stop, like you're saying. But under the hood, it may be doing similar things. Anything else? I want to try one more thing. No, never mind. I don't think that'll work. All right, if there is nothing else, I think we can call it. All right, everyone. We got a question. Sorry. How would I link to a DLL with an extension? I don't have that one. I don't have a practical experience with that. But I would direct you to I'm just going to go somewhere here. Basically, the NVIDIA Omniverse GitHub org. Look for CPP and kit extension template CPP. And this is going to have examples of how to build DLL for your C++ code. So it's Omniverse C++ code, but the hooks to and configuration to get this to work should also apply if you, for example, you have a third party or some non-Omniverse DLL that you want to hook in. If that's what we're talking about. Which one would be a good one? CPP Hello World? And if we look at the config extension toml, there is a define C++ plugins that this extension provides. And so there is a native plugin section in the settings, and you set path. And then this is the path from the root of your extension. So it would be here. When you build this, this would go as a build to a build folder, and you could see get a better idea of what that final built extension looks like, and how the config is pointing to that. But if you were to build this extension, you would probably see that from this folder, Omni example CPP hello world in the builds area, you'd have a bin folder here next to config probably. And that's about it. I think that's all it takes. I'll look at one more just to see if there's any variation here. Look at a C++ one. Same deal. There's a C++ API. So, so that would include the header. That would be a header include potentially. Okay, so lots of examples here to kind of get different ideas of how to do this. I gave you the link, so I think that is it. All right. Thank you everybody for coming. I hope you have a happy Friday and a great weekend, and I will see you next week. See you, everyone.